you. Thanks, Maggie. Well, very nice to meet you. You're welcome.
See you.
Yes.
Okay.
I think there's two there.
Two here?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Many thanks.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I got everybody. Yeah. Sorry, somehow I missed you. Yep. Moda ani lefanecha ruachai vekayam. Moda ani lefanecha ruachai vekayam shehezarta bi nishmati. Behemla Rabba Emunatecha. Boker Tov, good morning. We open this day, and every morning tradition teaches us that when we get up, the first thing out of our mouth is gratitude. Moda for feminine, modeh for masculine. Moda ani, I am so grateful. Before you, lifanecha, be face to face with the divine. Ruach Chai, the breath of life, another name for the divine. And so grateful am I that I am reinsouled every day. We have a little story, actually, one of my favorite stories. I didn't like it when I was younger, but I've come to see the wisdom of this story in Judaism that when we go to sleep, it's like 1/60th of death. And we have this experience of of rest and refreshment. It's one of the reasons that the rabbis give us for wearing white or wearing a kittel on Yom Kippur, because for this holy day, when we fast, when we abstain from traditionally from washing ourselves, from having relations with our bodies, we empty ourselves out and we practice the serenity of what it means not to be filled with the breath of life. And each morning we are restored. We wake up with what we say, Elohim shamash natata b'tochorahi, that we wake up and we are re-ensouled with the purity of our souls. So I can't think of a better place to be in touch with what it means to truly be alive than this place. Maybe not this exact place, but this landscape that we are a part of this morning, and for many of you, many, many days of your life, is a landscape that really wakes us up to the gratitude of what it means to be alive. And as I was driving along at a really fast clip, because I was late, I was aware of the preciousness of this scenery, and I was thinking about some of you who I've had the opportunity to get to know, and thinking that you may drive along here often enough that you may, bless you, you may one day, one moment, take it all for granted. You might be trying to get to wherever you're going, or you may be frustrated because, I don't know, there's a lot of snow on the road and you can't get to where you're going. Don't ever take it for granted. I say, as a Nashvilleian who has very verdant, beautiful, rolling landscape around me, which I do appreciate because I'm really a Central Ohioan where it's flat, 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 flat. So I am aware of the landscape, and I so appreciate it. And I welcome you here this morning. We're going to do some of the liturgy that's in the book, but we're also going to spend some time. We're small enough of a group this morning that we can really spend some time digging into things and having conversations. I hope that we will, as we did last night, have a more participatory service, have an opportunity to really share with one another what is within us on this day. So I invite you, if you haven't already, to open up to the beginning of this service in the materials that you have. Is everybody at the beginning of? Thank you. I like seeing you too. I kept looking over there, and in your head was this big sunflower. So that's nice too. But thank you. So we're on page 2 of the morning service, where you would see at the top of the page, blessing before wrapping yourself in your talit. For those of us who were here last night, we put on our talit on Kol Nidre on the evening of Yom Kippur, and putting it on again is as if it's like if you take off your talit and you go to the bathroom, you take it off and you put it back on, you don't say the blessing again. But for those of you who are wrapped, I wanted to share a talit meditation that's not in the materials this morning. And for those of you who don't have this garment with fringes on it, the sacred fringes, these are the most disparate parts of our garment, and yet we bring them together as we put on the talit. I invite you to, as you listen to this talit meditation, to imagine yourself being wrapped in the light of morning. Weave for us a garment of brightness, May the warp be the white light of morning. May the weft be the red light of evening. May the fringes be the falling rain. May the border be the standing rainbow. Thus, weave for us a garment of brightness, that we may walk fittingly where birds sing, that we may walk fittingly where grass is green. From the Song of the Loom of the Tiwa Indian. And I think often when I come to a new place, whose land am I standing on? And yes, we are standing on the grounds or sitting on the grounds of the Unitarian Universalist Church. We're also standing on grounds that have been through many hands. Where I live in Tennessee, I live on Cherokee land. And the Cherokees forced out the native peoples who were there before them, but we, people of European descent, forced them in a trail of tears all the way to Oklahoma. So being aware that this land that we are on is land that we need to take care of, this being a Shemitah year, a year of release. This is a year for us to really think about how we release the land, how we take care of it. So I invite you to turn with me to the words on page 3. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. And these words are so fitting for where we are here in this tent, gathered in this tent. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Blessings flow into the world from the source of light. Be a vessel for the love song of God. Blessings flow into the world from the source of life. Be a vessel for the love song of God. Ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, mani berokatecha, avovetecha, Eshtacha v'echokatcha v'yiratecha Adonai ahavti me'on betecha u'makom mishkan kevodecha Adonai, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Thank you for singing with me. I appreciate it. And I know for how many people are you resident here? And for how many people are you just popping in because you happen to be in the area for the high holidays? Excellent, excellent. Well, welcome. And I am filling in at the moment for Rabbi Francine Roston. I am Rabbi Jessica Schimberg, and I am just so delighted to be here and to welcome all of you here. I would love to be those of you who are resident here to have the time to really soak in this land, and for those of you who are just visiting, soak it up. I'm going to share with you a poem by Shelley Barnathan on turning and returning, and she relates it to this next prayer, which is in the middle of page 4. Elohai neshama shematata bi tehorahi. And she calls this turning and returning, teshuvah, turning and returning to our breath, to our souls. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. My God, the neshama, the soul that you have given me is pure. You have placed it within me, given it to me at birth. Within each of us there is a pure soul, a tender, soft place in which we can always return, to which we can always return. Today on Yom Kippur, the day of atonement, the day of at-one-ment, we open our nishamot to our pure, to our divine, our sacred, deep within soul, finally becoming at one with our truest selves. As the gates of Teshuvah stand wide open to us on this Yom Kippur, let us fully open our souls to forgiveness, forgiving loved ones, forgiving community, forgiving ourselves. Our neshama, the breath of soul, allows us to access the divine, to reach the holy, sacred spaces within us. We chant the prayer slowly and we breathe its words. We return to the neshama, the soul, for it contains the breath, it holds the divinity, it touches the oneness. We return to our true selves, our best selves, our pure selves. On this day of at-one-ment, let us return to the best within ourselves individually, and within ourselves as community. I invite you to find a place on your body where you feel a real access of that sacredness within you. It may be here, it may be somewhere else on your body. And then I invite you to take your other hand and place it in a place that's needing a little extra love from you this morning. We're going to sing Elohai Neshama with the beat of our heart. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. 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 My God, this soul you implanted in me, so pure is she. My God, this soul you implanted in me, so pure is she. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. 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 I invite you to turn with me to page 9, where we begin Psuke de Zimra, the verses of praise. And at the bottom of the page, you find in English a pretty literal translation of these words, Baruch she'amar v'chaya ha'olam, Baruch hu, Baruch shemo. And I wanted to share with you some words from Kol HaNeshama, the prayer book that I use most regularly for the days of awe. And this is by Naomi Janowitz and Margaret Moores Winnick. Blessed is the one who spoke and the world became. Blessed is the one. Blessed is the one who in the beginning gave birth. Blessed is the one who says and performs. Blessed is the one who declares and fulfills. Blessed is the one whose womb covers the earth. Blessed is the one whose womb protects all creatures. Blessed is the one who nourishes those who are in awe of her. Blessed is the one who lives forever and exists eternally. Blessed is the one who redeems and saves. Blessed is the name of that one. Baruch hu, Baruch shemo, Baruch ahi, Baruch shema, Baruch hu, Baruch shemo, Baruch ahi, Baruch shema, Baruch shamar v'haya ha'olam. Baruch Haseh Bereshit, Baruch Hamer Ve'otzeh, Baruch Gozer U'Mkayem. Baruch hu, Baruch shemo, Baruch ahi, Baruch shema, Baruch merachem ha'aretz, Baruch merachem al ha'beretz. הבריות. ברוך משלם שכר טוב לרעיו. ברוך חי לעד וקיים לנצח. ברוך פודה ומציל. ברוך הוא, ברוך שמו. ברוך הוא, ברוך שמו. ברוך ההיא, ברוך שמה. ברוך הוא, ברוך שמו. ברוך הוא, ברוך שמו. So we turn to the end, we open Pesukei de Zimra and we move to its end on page 14 with Psalm 150, the last of the Psalms, which is always in our morning liturgy of the world. And so this day, that is also so special, is also just another day in the ways in which we can praise and lift up our voices in praise. So I want to sing, I feel like I sing some tunes that some of you know and many of you don't. Are you singers? Are you people who like to sing? Because if you don't, I'm not going to try to find something we can all sing together. But if you like, yay, I'd really like to sing a tune that you know. So, do you know the song, the version of this Hallelujah that's from Kol HaNeshama, the Reformed Synagogue in Jerusalem that goes, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Hillary knows it. Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. Join with me. It's pretty simple, so you can get it as we go. Hallelujah, 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 Birki Auzo, hallelujah, Bigvurata, hallelujah, Kerov Gudla, hallelujah, Beteka Shofar, hallelujah, Benevel Bechinor, hallelujah, 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 Betov Umachol, hallelujah, 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 Beminim Be'ugav, hallelujah, Betiltele Shama, hallelujah, Betiltele Truah, Kol Hanshama, Til Hallelujah, 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 Aleinu. So you hear in Psalm 150 a reference both to the shofar and blowing it as a tru'ah. So tru'ah is that do 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 do. That's like we think of that as a call to war. It's talked about in Talmud and Mishnah about a call as a call to war, but it's also a call of great joy. So you see that we use these terms in our celebrations on a daily basis. And so thinking of those sounds that we hear at this time of year as also sounds of celebration, or I belong to a rabbinic and cantorial association that used to be called Rabbis for Human Rights, and it renamed itself Tru'ah, and it really takes that call. And so sometimes when we're at social or environmental justice events, we'll bring a shofar and we'll call it using that Tru'ah call. So inviting you to bring the shofar, the voice of the shofar, into your mind, calling it to mind not just at this time of year, but at other times of year when we need a wake-up call. Let's turn together to the Chatzi Kaddish, punctuation mark, kind of like an opportunity to stop and look at the vista. Normally I would say to stop and like take a little bit of your trail mix, but not on Yom Kippur. So we stop here for the Chatzi Kaddish before we head into the Baruch Hu. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Malma divrach hirutei Lich malchutei V'chayechon u'v'yomechon U'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael V'agala u'vizman kariv V'yamaru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mivorach Le'olam Olamei Almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnatzeh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei d'kudasha b'richu Leila min kol birchata V'shirata tushbechata V'nechemata damiran be'alma V'meru Amen. I think our sages asked us to shake up the nusach for different holidays so that we wouldn't become complacent. It's so easy with Shabbos nusach to just go through that Chatzi Kaddish. It's much harder using the tunes of the high holidays. We invite you to rise for our call to worship our Baruch Hu. We'll do this in the tune of the High Holy Day. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Le'olam Haba. Seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ruach ha'olam yotzer or u'boreh choshech oseh shalom u'boreh et hakol. Let's continue in English together like an unbroken current. Energy streams from the source, bathing the planet in light, calling forth life, movement, mind, unfolding from matter, the power to love, and we offer it back to you, our own creative energy, ever dreaming, building, shaping patterns out, searching out light into the darkness. Creation never ceases, not for an instant. All life is aglow with your light. All things draw sustenance from the source. Or Chadash Al Tzion Ta'ir Or Chadash Al Tzion Ta'ir V'nizkechu lanu b'mehera leoro v'nizkechu lanu b'mehera leoro Yadadai, dai, 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 yadadai, dai, 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 yadadai, dai, 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 yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai, 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 yadadai, dai, 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 yadadai, dai, 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 yadadai, dai, dai. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. I invite you onto page 19, calling on the oneness, that it is our birthright as Yisrael, as God wrestlers, to wrestle with what it means for the divine, for the sacred source to be one, and for that one to be what we are called to be in alignment with. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Avoid Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha B'chol lebavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele Asher Anochi mitzavecha Hayom levavecha Vishinantam levanecha Vidibarta bam Vishivtecha beveitecha Uvlechtecha arech Uvshachbecha uvkumecha Ubshartam lehot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beinenecha, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. You can continue with the prayers in your prayer book, where I'm going to share with you a version of these words from the liturgist Marcia Folk. She writes incredible liturgy, and it's very succinct. Hear, O Israel, the divine abounds everywhere and dwells in everything. The many are one. Loving life and its mysterious source with all my heart and all my spirit, all my senses, all my strength, I take upon myself and into myself these promises: to care for the earth and those who live upon it, to pursue justice and peace, to love kindness and compassion. I will teach this to our children throughout the passage of the day, as I dwell in my home and as I go on my journey, from the time I rise until I fall asleep. And may my actions be faithful to my words, that our children's children may live to know truth and kindness have embraced, peace and justice have kissed and are one. Adonai Elohim Amen. Let's read together on the bottom of page 21. I'm at the Yatziv, but in the English. True and steadfast is this teaching. We have on page 22 this story that is, there are very few stories that one can call up on a moment's notice. For me, and it's not because I'm a rabbi, the story of our exodus from Mitzrayim. Our exodus, there is the words that are in Torah. There are the stories that are in Torah. There are the biblical stories. If you're a literalist, those things actually happened. And if, like me, you think of these words as sacred words and wisdom stories that come through our people over millennia, and have within them the emet, the emunah, the truth, and the faithfulness. I mean, there are things that are true that just because a story is written about Cain and Abel, it doesn't have to be that Cain and Abel were the exact people. We all know sibling rivalry. Hopefully none of us have actually killed our siblings, but we know that experience of sibling rivalry. And maybe even as we come to this Yom Kippur, we have those feelings, some of the feelings that we see outlined in Torah. But this story, the story of leaving Mitzrayim, leaving a narrow place, a place of constriction, and moving out into an expanse. Maybe you can think about a time in your life that you felt that your life was very constricted, and you finally made a decision. Maybe it's like the story of Nachshon, who was the first, they say, into the sea of reeds. When we got to the shores of the sea, and they had not parted, and he trusted, he just went for it. And the time in your life that you just trusted and went for it, and things opened up, and there was an expanse for you. That's what I think of when I come to these words about who is like you, who is like this life force that animates us, that animates all of creation. Who is like you? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמלכו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Sur Yisrael, Kuma, we stand up, Kuma v'etzrat Yisrael, uvdehinu mecha Yehuda v'Yisrael, go aleinu Adonai tzevaot shemo. Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Yadadai, dai, 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 Adonai. Yadadai, dai, 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 Svatai Tifta. Yadadai, dai, 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 Ufi Agi Tehilatecha. Yadadai, dai, 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 Adonai. Yadadai, dai, 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 Svatai Tifta. Yadadai, dai, 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 Ufi Agi Tehilatecha. I want to give you the opportunity before the standing ark, before the open ark, before the Torah, and before the mountains. The Amidah, our standing prayer, is traditionally said with all of us standing the way we are now. We also feel very strongly that God hears our tefillah no matter where we are and no matter how we are raising ourselves up to speak to the divine mystery. So I want to give you permission, as if you needed my permission, but I want you to know that you are welcome to go out into the field, into the sun. Facing the sun this morning is really quite glorious. And you'll be able to hear what I'm doing. I'm going to do the traditional beginning, the opening of the Amidah. And then we'll go into silent prayer. There are the meditations that are on the words, the prayers that the meditations and the prayers that are on the page, but there are plenty of them that are in your hearts as well. So I invite you to make your own Amidah meaningful to you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah El Hagadol Hagibur Hanora El Elyon Agom El Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chazdei Avot V'Imaot U'Mevigu Hadivnei B'neicham L'man Shemo Be'ahava Zochreinu L'chaim Melech HaPetz V'Chaim V'Kodmeinu V'Sefer HaChaim L'Mahancha Elohim Chaim Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Mageh Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah. Gibor le'olam Adonai v'chayei mitzivat harav le'choshia Moshiach haruach morid v'gashem Mechalkel chayim b'chesed Mechayei kol chai v'rachamim rabim Samech noflim u'rofeh poholim U'matir asumim U'mekayem emunato Mishanei afar Michamocha b'geburot U'midam elach U'mechayeh U'matzmiach Yeshua Mi kamocha al harachamam Zocher Yitzura L'chaim berachamim L'chaim berachamim V'ne'eman atah l'chachayot meitim Baruch atah Adonai mechayech hametim. Unetana token kedushat hayom Ihu nara ve'ayom. Rosh Hashanah ikatevu Ubeyom Tzom Kippur yichatevu Rosh Hashanah ikatevu Ubeyom Tzom Kippur yichatevu Shalom Tova Uberacha. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, sim, sim shalom tova uveracha. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Sim sim. Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uveracha. Oseh shalom bimrama. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. You can be seated, or if you want to stand, you can do that too. The woman's meditation, but I think it's a person's meditation. It's just titled A Woman's Meditation by Ruth Bryn. When men were children, they thought of God as a father. When men were slaves, they thought of God as a master. When men were subjects, they thought of God as a king. But I am a woman, not a slave, not a subject, not a child who longs for God as father. I might imagine God as a teacher or a friend, but those images like king, master, father, or mother are too small for me now. God is the force of motion and light in the universe. God is the strength of life on our planet. God is the power moving us to do good. God is the source of love springing up in us. God is far beyond what we can comprehend. So we move from this into the words on page 38 of Ashamnu, these words as we talked about last night that we say in the plural because we hold as a community, we hold as a people all of these things that have been done wrong. And you see the words in English in the middle of the page. We're going to go with the tune by Ron Citron that I taught you last night. There's a lot of yas in the midst of it. Thank you so much. And apple seems to work very nicely. Thank you for the apples. And I will call out the words of Ashamnu, and in between we'll have this yai lai lai. Yai lai lai, dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Hashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi. La 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 Hazinu, Visharnu, Zadnu, Hamashnu, Tafalnu Shaker. Die 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 die. Yai die 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 die. Ya atsnura, kizavnu, latsnu, maradnu, niatsnu, serarnu, avinu, Rashanu, Ta'atsaranu, Kishinu Orev, La di 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 di. Yai di 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 di. Rashanu, Shihatsnu, Tibanu, Ta'inu, Titanu. Di 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 di. Yai di 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 di. We'll continue with the reading at the bottom of page 39. Let's do that responsively. Actually, let's hear voices from around the, I was going to say from around the room, from around the tent. So if somebody would just, we'll start somewhere. Marvin, will you start? And you just read one line, one for the sin, and then the next line, person.
For the sin we have committed against you through evading and avoiding, because we could not face the truth.
For our slightness and hypocrisy and deception, because we did not dare to speak it. For the facts we disassembled and all we glossed over, with the excuses we made.
For feeding our bodies and starving our souls.
For interfering with the souls of others and neglecting their needs.
For shifting our responsibilities for reproaches and recriminations. For foolishness, for folly, and twisted.
We're seeing these things only in others and never in ourselves.
Next, one of you who spoke.
For our complacency, which blinds us, and our self-righteousness, which lessens us.
For calculating kindness and measuring out pity.
For charity that is cold and prayers without feeling.
For withholding love.
For the appeals that we ignore and the people whom we refuse.
For the affection which died and our lives that became bitter.
For the visions which faded, the ideals we've neglected, and the opportunities we lost.
Fear of change and renewal and our unbelief.
For saying our prayers aloud but refusing to listen.
For being our own worst enemy.
So many of these fall heavy because we have known these things. Let's continue on page 40 in English with Al-Chet Shechatanu. Let's keep going around this way. I don't know about for you, but for me, it's very different to hear a single voice and then another single voice and then another single voice just, and because we can read it together, that hearing different voices share these, I find very meaningful. I hope you do too. The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths.
The ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech.
The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we've caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers.
The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor.
The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and the harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty and
distance. Salach lanu mechalanu kaperanu. Continuing.
The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control.
The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink.
The ways we have wronged you by giving into our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused you in your world to greed and exploitation.
The ways we have wronged you through cynicism and scorn, and harm we have caused in your world through arrogant behavior.
The ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech.
The ways we have wronged you with a slanderous tongue, and harms we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit.
Ve'al kulam Eloha salichot, salach lanu mechalanu kaperanu. We find on page 43 a vidui, a confession, and you see it as an acrostic in the third word of the sentences of the acrostic, the Aleph through Tav, the A through Z. This vidui for the 21st century, which Rabbi Francine has at the top of her of Richard Cohen. Let's do this, all of us together. We confess our sins against the earth. We commit ourselves to saving it. We have assaulted our planet in countless ways. We have blamed others for the spiraling, deepening crises. We have consumed thoughtlessly and irresponsibly. We have driven myriad species to the point of extinction. We have exhausted irreplaceable resources. We have failed to transcend borders and act unselfishly. We have given in to our many appetites and our gluttony. We have harmed beyond repair the habitats of living beings. We have ignored the signs of change in our seasons. We have jeopardized the well-being of future generations. We have known the problems but not problem-solving others. We have lost sight of our role as God's partners in creation. We have mocked cynically those who love creatures great and small. We have neglected the environment, most of all in places of poverty. We have overpopulated our cities and overfished our oceans. We have polluted seashores and skies.
Fertile soil and freshwater springs. We have questioned and doubted solid evidence of danger. We have ravaged the old growth forests, ecosystems created over centuries.
We have spewed poison into the bloodstream of our land, its rivers, lakes, and estuaries. We have transformed dazzling beauty into industrial ugliness. We have used shared resources for personal gain and corporate profit. We have violated the commandment, do not destroy. We have wasted precious treasures, our God-given gifts. We have exploited the weakest and most vulnerable in our midst. And yet we yearn to be better guardians of this earth and the fullness thereof. Let us be zealous now to care for this unique corner of the cosmos, this planet, our sacred home. Ki anu amecha ve'ata malkeinu, anu vanecha ve'ata avinu, anu nachaltecha ve'ata goraleinu, anu tzonecha ve'ata roe. Einu anu karmecha ve'ata notreinu, anu re'atecha ve'ata dodeinu, anu amecha ve'ata malkeinu, anu vanecha ve'ata avinu. Avinu malkeinu, chatanu lefanecha. Avinu malkeinu, en lanu melech elata. Avinu malkeinu, hachazirenu b'tshuva shlema lefanecha. Avinu malkeinu, chadesh aleinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova. Avinu malkeinu, shelach refuah shlema l'cholei amecha. Avinu malkeinu, hafer hatzat, hatzat oveinu. Avinu malkeinu, zochreinu, v'zikaron tov lefanecha. Avinu malkeinu, kotveinu b'sefer chayim tovim. Avinu malkeinu, kotveinu b'sefer geula b'shua. Avinu malkeinu, kotveinu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala. Avinu malkeinu, kotveinu b'sefer zechuyot. Avinu malkeinu, kotveinu b'sefer slicha u'mechila. Avinu malkeinu, chatzmach lanu Yeshua b'karov. Avinu malkeinu, harem kerem Page 47. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu ve'anenu, ki ein banu ma'asim, aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'choshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu ve'anenu, ki ein banu ma'asim. So we have Torah reading this morning. I brought something that I thought would be more moving to your, that doesn't sound right, more moving than Torah. What is more moving than Torah? But to listen to me read Torah, and today's Torah portion, for the Torah portion for the morning of Yom Kippur is Leviticus. I think I might have mentioned to you on Rosh Hashanah that I took an entire semester in rabbinical school called Learning to Love Leviticus. And it was, and I have a place in my heart that is softened to Leviticus. And I was concerned that these words might not really resonate with you. And if they do, I want to invite you to, while we're doing something different for the time that we have for the Torah service, if you'd like to, are there any people who would really like to talk about this morning's Torah portion? And we can form a little chavruta and you have a conversation about the Torah portion for this morning. And then another group of us can do this forgiveness exercise that I brought. Does anybody want to talk about the Torah portion? I really don't want. We didn't read Torah on Rosh Hashanah because we were running out of time, and we are moving toward noon, and I want to be respectful of people's time so that you can do what you need to do for this Rosh Hashanah day. But I'm here to serve you, so I want to make sure that I am serving you. So please tell me.
Well, I'd like to, but I don't want to move in and wear a mask.
You'd like to talk about the
Torah portion.
Okay. Anybody else want? Yes. Okay. Would you do chavruta together? And you could, as long as you're like spread apart. Are you vaccinated? Can I ask? Okay. So if you are willing to go, and I will do this part off mic so that you can have a conversation together about the Torah portion. Okay. And everyone else, maybe we'll move our chairs. Can people sit in the sunshine? Those of you who are in the tent, do you feel okay in the sunshine? I can't tell.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's going to be a group that's studying Torah and then a group who's doing this. But before we move, Marvin, we're gonna take out the Torah and give her the attention she deserves. Will somebody come and open the ark? And will you also hold the Torah? Yay. In kamocha v'Elohim Adonai v'en kamasecha Malchutecha malchut כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Adonai oz lemo yiten, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim etiv avertzonecha et Zion. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim, Tivne chomot Yerushalayim. Ki yecha v'tapatachnu melech Elam v'nisa Adon olamim. Vayhi binso Aharon v'yomer Moshe Kuma Adonai v'yavutzu oivecha v'yanusu mifanecha mifanecha. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'davar Adonai miYerushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Do you want to do the calling? Echad Shemay Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. We respond Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonai Kadosh v'nara Shemo. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonai Kadosh v'nara Shemo. Adonai iti u'neromema Shemo yachdav. We're not going to do a procession. Yay! We're not going to do a procession, but I want people who want to come up to the Torah to be able to do that. So I'm going to ask that Hillary stand here, and for anyone who would like to come up and touch the Torah. Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu me'adam ragma. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu Le'adam raglav kadosh hu, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Let's open it up. Thank you so much. Go ahead, the road. Well, not entirely. Help me undress.
you.
I'm gonna lift it up. Okay, thank you.
Fantastic. It looks good. I am not impressed.
Maybe. So, do you as a community take out the Torah and like kind of look at it often? Okay, all right. So what I'd like to do before we and maybe we'll do this instead, and I'll save my other thing for the end this afternoon. I'm going to unroll this. We're getting actually. Why don't we take all the apples and the flowers here? I'm going to give this to you. You're going to take the flowers over to the other side. And no, those can go to the other side. And lovely apples. And thank you so much. Can you take these to the other side? Thank you. We're getting close to Simchat Torah, which is our opportunity to really see the whole thing. And right now this is rolled to Genesis, to Bereshit. So I'm going, if you are uncomfortable coming up, I totally get it. But if we're all masked and outdoors, I think we're okay. I'm going to ask somebody to come and hold this side of the Torah. Thank you, Roger. And then, actually, Hillary, will you bring this to the What I'd like to do is get it to the very beginning of Bereshit. So I'm going to, actually, Roger, I'm going to trade places with you. Thank you. Okay, so if you want to see the beginning of Torah, come on up. We will come up a little at a time, depending on people's comfort. Please say if you're not comfortable being close, and we'll wait till everybody clears away. So I don't know how many people have, I don't want to say things that you already know, but I'm going to take the yad. So, thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so you see that when the sofer, when the scribe writes the Torah scroll, first of all, he or she now, but most likely this one is he, writes on the parchment. They, you can see, if we have a bit more of the sunlight, you can see that they take a sharp tool and they create lines. So the sofer is very good at what he does, but there are also lines in the parchment. I don't know if you can see right here. So it how the line, the sofer makes the letters to go up to the top. So when you scribe, it's important that the top is where there is, the scribe works from the top to write. What you also see on the scroll is that there are a number of letters that have, you see here, these crowns. So there are a certain number of letters, certain letters receive a crown. There's a story about it in Talmud, which I don't remember at this very moment. But certain letters have the crown on them. And then the spaces
will help one to find where there is the end of not a pasuk, but of an entire passage of Torah. It's not the place where the empty, what I call the white fire, is around the black, is not entirely because of the Torah portions that we have set out. Those came much, much later than the scribing of this. And then it's sewn together here. We generally, when we do an aliyah, we will touch. And remember that if you've been up for an aliyah, you know that somebody will show you where they're starting. And I was taught that you touch that word and you kiss. But I learned from a sofer when I lived in Jerusalem that that is not good. He suggests that you touch in the margin so that you're not sharing your whatever's on your seat or your fingers with the parchment. So that was just an interesting thing that I learned directly from a sofer in Jerusalem. When a sofer makes a mistake, a lot of people say that entire piece gets torn up. That's not true. If a sofer makes a huge mistake, yes, he'll start again. But they also have a tool where they can, it's not white out. It's like a tool that you can scrape the parchment a little bit. So that's why sometimes you'll see that there are places that are thinner in the parchment. When there is a little bit of stain on the Torah, no big deal. When there is something that causes an error or something is torn, it'll be fixed. But generally, the animal, but that's perfect that they choose an animal for the hide, and they choose the parchment very carefully. But it's of a creature. Beautiful. Okay. Beautiful. We're gonna go a little way in. I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, please ask. The parchment is not made to hide. It is. The parchment is made of an animal skin. Usually, and if you want to take off your mask and smell right on the parchment, what you can, some Torahs are a little stinkier than others. But it is, yeah, it's the hide of a kosher animal. I want to get to a place where you can see, I want to show you the Song of the Sea. That's my Torah portion. It is! How exciting. So you see, like there are places where there's more. You'll also see that in order to make these columns perfect, what do you see here? Somebody say for those who can't see. What do you see? Long? Yeah. Some of the letters get elongated. So here you've got a lot of tabs that are elongated to make the line. This is like before. What is it called when we do that with? Justified. This is early justified margins. And we've got a huge final mem here. Yeah, either to Shirat Hayam or to the first time you have 10 commandments. And if you have questions, please ask. See, here's a place where you've got a little bit of animal imperfection. Mm-hmm. And I think that's beautiful. So in this, amazing ritual object that is so sacred to us, we also see the imperfections. And I think that's beautiful. Here's a place where there's probably been some correction that was done. Mm-hmm. You see that? Here, it looks like this portion was read very, with the yad. The yad is there to keep you at your place, but generally you don't want to touch the scroll with your yad. Or if you do, you want to do it very, very gently. Yeah, I don't know. I assume that this belongs to the Roston family. I don't know.
It's the Beit Harim Torah.
Oh, okay.
But I don't remember the
It was
story.
Mark Nevis's father that donated it
Oh,
years
yeah.
and years and years ago.
Oh, nice. Oh,
I mean, over 20 years ago.
no,
25
okay, wait.
years ago.
That's important. So, tell us a little bit about the person who donated.
His father, his dad donated it. Mark Nevis used to be a person who was involved with Beit Harim, which was one of the congregations that made up this congregation now. And he just doesn't come anymore. But it was donated to Beit Harim, so we get to keep it.
So nice.
I remember there was the Torah dedication service. You went to that, didn't you?
I wasn't here yet.
You weren't here yet? Oh, God, that was down on the Flathead Lake.
Yeah.
I think actually
Oh,
was at the
wow.
Flathead Lake Lodges. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a long time ago. That was longer than I thought.
Yeah.
How might his father have gotten a Torah?
His father was very rich and he could buy for us.
Very
Very easily. You want to buy for us? All he needs money, right?
You can buy a good Torah for about 10,000.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not really.
And there are a number of really lovely scrolls that have been rescued
Mm-hmm.
from the Shoah. There are also, there are people scribing all the time, and what I think is neat is that it's become an art that is shared by men and women. So just a little bit further. There we go. Here's something interesting. Oh, but here we are. Okay. The Eila Shemot. So that is all of this rolling was just one book. This was the book of Genesis, of Bereshit. And now we get to Eila Shemot, the book of Shemot, of names, which we also call. That's a great feature. That's the only place you don't. Perfect. So, yeah. So now we're in the book of Shemot. And we can keep going. Okay, yeah, I know. I was going to take it off, but this is the one time when one really should be wearing one talit. Let's just go a little bit further.
I'm in.
Oh, here's a place where you can really see the lines. And you see how they're not the sofer works to the top. We're used to writing on the line. The sofer works to the top. Yeah, so all of the letters are hanging on the line.
Well, that's an interesting kind of metaphor.
Yeah.
Hanging on the line.
Yeah.
So how are these lines usually placed?
They use a sharp instrument and the line goes. Usually the line goes all the way across. Sometimes, no, I think mostly they'll use it across the entire sheet. Different. Yes, a good point. So the question is, are there more than, it looks like there's different lettering. The font looks a little bit different. Are there different scribes? Generally, no. One scribe will do an entire Torah or an entire, like a book, like Esther, or, those are also scrolls. So I think, it could be that they're different, but I'm honestly thinking it's the same sofer, and it also could be that, I don't think that somebody, like, if you replace an entire sheet, it does look like this is newer than this, doesn't it? It's a different, totally different. Yeah, that we don't know because they.
It looks like stained maybe each or something.
Yeah, I think this really shows you that it's an animal skin. That's not stained. That's the skin of the animal. So you can see, like, you look at a cow in the field, and you see that it, or you see that it has, that its hide has different colors. So I believe that is not staining.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's possible that this was inserted in at a different time. I don't know. It also could be, sometimes you're writing close together and sometimes you're writing further apart, so you have multiple ways in which you're writing. I don't know. Yeah. Is it because this is a the skin is different? Pops out more because the skin is. Oh, there we go back. Like maybe that's maybe that's
smaller than this.
yeah. So maybe we try not to touch Laura with our. No, it's okay. It's okay.
You're forgiven.
Today's the day.
There we go.
I don't get forgiven very often.
I'm usually in trouble.
No.
We actually have a rescue charge.
You do?
Oh
Really?
my God, I missed it when I was 68 years old.
Oh, tell us that story. Tell us.
It was rescued and it had just been brought here to the United States. And that's
Oh, wow.
She was 64.
You were 68. I love that. Oh, that's fantastic. Where? In Miami. Wonderful. So speaking of Miami, go ahead.
The worst part is the rabbi made me read part of the Torah.
Oh, well, sure. It's an honor.
No,
that's an honor.
It is our 50th wedding anniversary. He called us up and he said, you, the two of you, so in love. Would you, I know Harold was talking to you.
Yeah.
Would you mind if you read talk to me? That one.
Yeah.
So we did talk, and he did talk.
And what they did, they gave us a CD. And we were actually in British Columbia. And that CD played in that car. And every single trip. That so I learned every one of my lines. Because I did not repeat. So I had to memorize the entire portion.
Wow. Mazel tov. Thank you for sharing that. And how appropriate from Miami to the Yam Soup. This right here, you see the Az Yashir Moshe, Uvenei Yisrael, Et Shira, Hazot, Ladonai. So this is the Song of the Sea, poetry that was placed into the Torah. And what does it look like to you? There's no right answer, by the way. It looks like waves. Yeah. Some people say it looks like bricks, like to be able to like cross the water, like or like the sea parting. You have columns on each side, and the words are the waves. Do you remember anything that you said at your bat mitzvah?
Oh, do you mean like thoughts I shared?
Yeah.
I guess I'm too old for that because we didn't get to share our thoughts. I had them.
Oh,
But
nice.
I did not. But
You
I remember the
like
start
to
of the
share
book.
it?
Can I chant it?
Oh my God, please.
It's so little.
Let's
I
get to
don't know
the
how
where's
far
the
I'll make it.
yeah. Thank you.
Do you want to do the
I'm gonna try.
I know.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a group aliyah. So we're going. So yeah. So our who Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Asher b'charbanu mikol ha'amim, v'nassamanu et Torato, v'oram ha'Torah, noten ha'Torah.
Az Yashir Moshe, Bnei Yisrael, et hashira hazot l'Adonai, Vayomeru lemor,
Ashira l'Adonai ki gaoga Susoko Ramavayam Ozi bezimrat ya Vaihili lishua Za'eli v'yantahu Elohei avi ba'aromenenhu Adonai ish milchama Adonai shemo Markavo paro v'chelo yaravayam Shalishav. Oh yeah. Umivchar shalishav tuveu ve'amsu tachmot yerdu. This is all like straight out from
Yeah,
my
that's so good.
13-year-old heart, right?
And with and
Tuveu ve'amsu.
let's do it.
Shalishav tuveu ve'amsu. Let's see if we can get the end, right?
Okay.
There's a Micha Mocha in here too.
There is, absolutely, right there.
Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha Mocha nedar ba'kodesh, Nora tehilot, oseh shelech. Okay, so at the end, this is the end right here, right? Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed.
Very good.
Baruch
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan tikvot emet le'ayenu l'tov v'shofenu l'rot v'yashlunan notein ha'torah.
Amen. Oh, where's the sweet stuff so we can throw it at you?
Well, I'll eat apples later.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh. Torah, 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 Torah. Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah. Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah. Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. So while we have the Torah out, let's do a Mishabera. So when Miriam was sick with Tzara'at, when Miriam had Tzara'at, Moshe asked God, Anna, Elna, Rifanala, please God, Naj, please God, please heal her now. So we can either do the Debbie Friedman or we can do an Anna Elna. And then I'd love for people to share names of people in need of healing. Is that okay? Anna, Elna, Rifana, Anna, Elna, Rifana, Anna, Elna, Rifana,
Rabbi Francine Watson.
Mark Goldstein, Carol Goldstein.
Anna, Elna, Stefana, Anna, Elna, Rivana,
Again?
Will you?
I
Oh, okay. Who? Marvin did it before. Yay. All right.
Shalom, Hashirenu Adonai, Elohavenu Tshuva, Havadesh, Havadesh Yameinu, Havadesh Yameinu,
So special.
Wow.
Torah.
First, a huge chazak, strength and memory, zachor, and just huge gratitude to you, Hillary, and to all of you who shared stories of Torah. It is, and when we say a time key, it's a tree of life to those who hold it, and that's metaphorical as well as a physical. So we come close to it to talk. We also, for us to have it in our lives, to use it, to wrestle with it. And I am happy to stay with you later and wrestle with this today's Torah portion. Absolutely happy to do that. So let's bring this service in for, first let me ask, is everyone staying for Easter? Yes? Okay. Thank you for the audible. Helpful. It's, like there's this, yeah. So let's turn, actually, I brought with me, I wanted to share with you. Let's see if I can find it quickly. So on pages, while the Torah is still out, generally we'll have a prayer for the congregation. And I thought this morning maybe what we could do for a prayer for the congregation would be to lift up our own appreciations for this congregation, for its existence here for us. So I wanted to give you just a moment to think about what those words would sound like, the words that you have to offer as appreciation and desire for this community that's gathered. And give you a moment to do that, and then I'll start with my own. May this continue to be a place where people gather from many different backgrounds and approaches to Torah and to community. May it continue to support those people who come here for a need to do Jewish together. Can be just a word.
May this community continue to be as welcoming as it's been since its founding, and it continues to build on the strength of old, young, and the growing community that we have.
Thanks, Maggie.
And this community living days.
B'nai Shalom, builders of peace. You are. And then I brought with me a prayer for Israel that was written by Rabbi Eric Asherman. He says, Sovereign of the universe, accept in loving kindness and with favor our prayers for the state of Israel, her government, and all who dwell within her boundaries and under her authority. And Rabbi Eric Asherman is an Israeli. I failed to mention that. I think it resonates more when you hear these words as the words of someone who lives and breathes this country, Israel. Reopen our eyes and our hearts to the wonder of Israel and the strength our faith in your power, and strengthen our faith in your power to work redemption in every human soul. Grant us also the fortitude to keep ever before us those ideals to which Israel dedicated herself in her Declaration of Independence, so that we may be true partners with the people of Israel in working toward her as yet not fully fulfilled vision. Grant those entrusted with guiding Israel's destiny the courage, wisdom, and strength to do your will. Guide them in the paths of peace and give them the insight to see your image in every human being. Be with those charged with Israel's safety and defend them from all harm. May they have the strength to protect their country and the spiritual fortitude never to abuse the power placed in their hands. Spread your blessing over the land. May justice and human rights abound for all her inhabitants. Guide them to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God, as it says in Micah. And may justice well up like waters, righteousness like a mighty stream, as the prophet Amos. Implant tolerance and mutual respect in every heart, and may all realize that we are not brought into this world for conflict and dissension, nor for hatred, jealousy, harassment, or bloodshed. Remember, we were brought into this world in order to recognize you. May you be blessed forever. Those are the words of Reb Nachman of Breslov. And then he quotes Isaiah, spread over Israel and all your world, your shelter of peace, and may the vision of your prophet soon be fulfilled. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama, lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama, lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Let's take just maybe a 5-minute break to move around, use the restroom if you need to use the restroom, and then we'll gather for youth court.
Shall I give you your bread now? Can you still read it? Yeah, it's just very present. I couldn't cut it. She's so high. Yeah. So you still don't work here, right?
You know, I have
It's picked based on,
Yeah. Maggie, are you using that? Hey, where'd you come from?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh, Jackie. I couldn't believe it when you said that. No, never.
Oh, I have.
I have never been a tour like that and have somebody explain to you
Wow.
how they're made and the different nuances.
Yeah,
I will always remember that. The story you shared, how we got the tour. You just have to have money.
Mark, you just got that money.
Oh my God. That's one thing I really love about us. It is.
Mark is not so far. No, I don't know.
No diplomacy.
He did a little bit with Shane.
I get it. I love that.
And he sort of went that way. And more we have a combined.
Yeah, the trouble council. Right. Yeah. The judge got COVID. His staff got COVID.
I don't know why.
And they didn't see how they could bring in 150 jurors. And defense counsel was coming from Washington. We had experts coming from Connecticut.
Oh, yeah. They're Orthodox, but they don't really tell you. I know.
They're very stressful.
They're really like,
Very, really good job.
they don't really tell you how far right or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the client.
They are.
I was very worried about
They try to but that's, yeah. So there are 3 of us. There are 3 of us. One is here.
You know what? They kept it for February 7th. Like, in great halls, that would be like the coldest month. Like, I'm gonna go buy a snowsuit, wear that every day. To the courthouse. I'm like, are you
they were not like this smart. Yeah, all black, yeah. Yeah, they wear the hats.
Outside. I'll be driving by myself.
It's not like you're walking around.
I got this
Yeah.
life alert. And I feel like I'm never alone.
Yeah, oh really?
I
Wow.
got this thing
Wow. That's not like you said, Mars got the big fur hats. They're from Russia.
Yeah.
The publishers are from Russia.
Yeah, I love it.
And
Like
the Rebbe, no, it's not. That's actually more in Pennsylvania. 3 to 21.
Everybody has right to sound.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah.
I my building house. I don't know, offer, you know.
Never forget. Oh my gosh. They were doing it in person.
I do.
I said,
Oh, thank you.
but it's together.
That's what I'm saying.
I saw your
I know I was so worried. I was also ready
Such good feeling. Thank you. Thank you.
And yeah, I'm a secretary.
They're very quiet online. Yeah.
So I would say,
Yes, you work hard. Did you like
No.
I wish I moved to Nashville to marry my beloved. And I did that during the pandemic. So I'm very, very new to Nashville. I don't have a car with me. But I will give her yeah. So
I'm not sure.
I've done a few things. I work
Yeah, I know.
yeah, I've done a lot. I've done church. I'm gonna start it. I'm sorry. Little remembering. I so appreciate it. So appreciate it. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I am next.
Oh, let's see, it's 47 years. I gotta know from mean, I interviewed Charlie Margaret. I interviewed people at Nature.
I got married September 16th, 1993. You go one way, I'll
The Yitzhar, the memorial service, begins on page, well, it begins on page 8, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you can turn, if you keep turning your pages, you'll get to one that is marked page 8. And it says at the top of it, Yitzhar Memorial Service. Eli, Eli, Shelo Yigamer Leolam, Achov Hayam, Rishru Shel Hamayim, Verak Shamayim, Tfilat Ha'adam, Achol V'chayam, Rishru Shel Hamayim, Verak Hashamayim, Tfilat Adam. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. Ooh. Jewish tradition teaches that between the living and the dead, there is a window, not a door. The culture of scientific materialism teaches that after death, the link between us and our loved ones who died are forever ended, a brick wall. But like the rituals of Shiva, Kaddish, and Yartzeit, Yizkor opens windows to loved ones who are no longer with us. Yizkor creates a sacred space and time wherein we can open our hearts and minds to the possibility of a genuine interconnection with beloved family members and friends who have left behind the world of the living. Yizkor is a window. Within the well springs of our infinite souls, we find the window of connection between the living and the dead, preparing to open that window. As we recite Yizkor prayers, let your senses and imagination serve as a vehicle of interconnection. For whom are today? Before your eyes, see their smiles, visualize how they might be standing if they were next to you. Do you recall the sound of voices? Hear their words as you stand in prayer. Feel their presence right in this moment, in your mind's eye, in your heart. Allow a conversation between you to unfold. What needs to be communicated this year? What's the message you need to hear today? What are the silent prayers of your heart? What remains unspoken? Listen, take your time. There is no reason to hurry. This is a timeless moment. Let all of the radiance of their love be with you right now. Those are words by Simcha Paul Raphael, who wrote just a phenomenal book about the Jewish afterlife. I can't remember exactly the title, but we tend not to have so many words. Growing up, what I was taught was that our loved ones live on in the memories, in the hearts, and the minds of those who knew them, and in the good works that they did. And now that I am saying Kaddish for my mother, I realize that there's more that I need than that. And so I really am grateful for the opportunity to be in prayer during these moments. On page 9, birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place alone, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. And rather than doing this as back and forth, what if we go around and somebody begin, and we'll each speak one of these at the whatever we remember them.
At the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them.
At the blowing of the wind and the chill of the winter, we remember them.
At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we really live.
At the blueness of the skies, the warmth of the summer, we remember them.
The rustling in the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. As long as we live, we think to feel them, but they are now part of us.
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them.
When lost the second heart, we remember them.
When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them.
When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them.
When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them.
As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us.
Is anybody willing to, who's sitting next to somebody else, willing to share their page?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Just turn over to page 11.
It's towards the end.
Yeah, I know, but
There's a lot of nines.
thank you. So in Jewish tradition, we have people who bring us into Yizkor. When I was a kid, we didn't go to the Yizkor service because my grandparents were all living. And my mom said, oh, we don't go to that service. We don't go to that service until we've lost somebody who's in proximity to us, a parent, a child, God forbid, a sibling, a spouse. Those are our categories of being, according to our tradition, being mourners. And yet, when we lose somebody who's very close to us, who doesn't fit in any of those categories, we still grieve. We still need the process of grieving. So it's important for us to acknowledge those people that we've lost in the category in which they are for us. So what I would like to do is begin with prayer, and then we will go through the categories. And what I'll do is ask if anybody has lost one of those categories, and you'll stand, and we will remember those people. And then you'll sit, and then we'll go to the next category. The night I lost you, someone pointed me toward the 5 stages of grief. Go that way, they said. It's easy, like learning to climb stairs after amputation. And so I climbed. Denial was first. I sat down at breakfast, carefully setting the table for 2. I passed you the toast. You sat there. I passed you the paper. You hid behind it. Anger seemed more familiar. I burned the toast and snatched the paper and read the headlines myself. But they mentioned your departure, and so I moved on, bargaining. What could I exchange for you? The silence after storms, my typing fingers. Before I could decide, depression came puffing up. A poor relation, its suitcase tied together with string. In the suitcase were bandages for the eyes and bottles of sleep. I slid all the way down the stairs, feeling nothing. And all the time, hope flashed on and off in defective neon. Hope was a signpost pointing straight in the air. Hope was my uncle's middle name. He died of it. After a year, I am still climbing, though my feet slip on your stone face. The tree line has long since disappeared.
Green is a color I have forgotten, but now I see what I am climbing towards. Acceptance, written in capital letters, a special headline, acceptance. Its name is in lights. I struggle on, waving and shouting. Below, my whole life spreads its surf, all the landscape I've ever known or dreamed of. Below, a fish jumps, the pulse in your neck. Acceptance. I finally reached it, but something is wrong. Grief is a circular staircase. I have lost you. For all those who have lost a grandparent, I invite you to stand. My mother's mother died in the spring of her years, and her daughter forgot her face. Her portrait, engraved on my grandfather's heart, was erased from the world of images when he died. In the house, just her mirror remained, sunk with age in its silver frame, and I, the pale grandchild who does not resemble her, peer into it today as into a lake that hides its treasure underwater. Deep behind my face, I see a young woman, pink-cheeked, smiling, a wig on her head, threading a long looped earring through the tender flesh of her lobe. Deep behind my face shines the bright gold of her eyes, and the mirror passes on the family. Beautiful. You to share the name of your grandparent that you've lost, bring them out into the group.
Rita Doherty,
Maurice and Bell Levick.
Rose and Harry Golub, Saul and Sophie Lerner,
Harry Rosenfeld, and Gertrude Van Ock. Anthony Goldstein and Molly Goldstein.
Sam Rostov, Jeanette Rostov, Sam Bordy, and Jeanette Bordy.
Invite you to sit. Invite those who have lost a father to please stand. Move to the front of the line, a voice says, and suddenly there is nobody left standing between you and the world to take the first blows on their shoulder. This is the place in books where part 1 ends and part 2 begins, and there is no part 3. The slate is wiped not clean, but like canvas painted over in white, so that a whole new landscape must be started. Bits of the old still showing underneath. Those colors, sadness lends to a certain hour of evening. Now the line of light at the horizon is the hinge between earth and heaven, only visible a few moments as the sun drops its rust padlock into place. I share the names of the fathers that you've lost.
Joseph Billy.
Reuben Miller.
Marvin Bordy.
You could be seated. Is there anyone who wants to share something about their father?
I will.
Yes.
My dad was a pediatrician and also a nationally recognized expert on childhood diabetes.
Please start again.
I don't think you want me to talk into the microphone when I don't have a mask on. Environment. I can talk pretty loud.
Okay, talk loud.
No court reporter has ever told me to speak up. Anyway, my father, Marvin Bordy, I grew up in Nebraska. He was a tried and true Cornhusker. And he married my mother and moved to Kansas City. And he was a pediatrician and a nationally recognized expert on juvenile diabetes. And he died in 2003 on the 6th day of Hanukkah, which that year also happened to be Christmas. And every year after that, my sister, who has also since passed away, would post, on Facebook about my dad. And my sister, who is also a very, very, very popular person in the whole world, literally hundreds. She was friends with thousands of people on Facebook, and literally hundreds would chime in and say how much they loved my dad. He was everybody's doctor growing up, and he really was. He was always a happy person. I say he had a happy gene, and he was a great doctor. And so,
and where was he?
In Kansas City.
In Kansas City.
Yep. And it's also gratifying to see my other sister and my brother have tried to take over my deceased sister's efforts at posting every year about my dad, but they don't have as many friends as Stephanie had either, so you don't see as many tributes. But it's nice to know that the whole world also.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else a father that you want to remember to the group?
It's funny, I get goosebumps just thinking. My dad passed October 6th, 2006. Everybody says their dad was the best. I wouldn't say it, but when I think about who he was a school principal, and never smoked, never drank, didn't cuss, just an amazing individual. And he instilled in my brother and I the importance of leadership and getting involved in different things. While my dad was sick, I was scheduled to give a talk at a meeting on the physician, and it was a state meeting, and he had gotten sick, and we kept him home as long as we could, and it got to the point where we had to put him in hospice, and I was supposed to leave the next day, and I didn't want to go. And he had these periods of lucency and not lucency, and the night before we were putting him in, I said, hey, I'm staying here. He says, oh, no, you're not. He said, I raised you to follow through on everything that you've done, and you've committed to be a speaker at this program. So I flew out that morning, Friday morning, the day he was admitted to a hospice facility. And while I was flying, I lost my phone. So back in the days, it was a BlackBerry Trio, and you couldn't even get a phone. I couldn't get a phone, but I had passed on numbers of people to reach me. And pretty much as soon as I got to the conference, I got the call that he didn't make it. And at first, for many years, I just regretted that I wasn't there because my mom and my brother, they were all there. But I knew that I was where he wanted me to be. So it's just the type of guy that he was. And can't write.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And what was his name?
David.
David. Anybody else want to lift up a father?
I'll do a quick one. My dad died in 1994. I was like 20. Something that was kind of interesting about him was he went to college when he was 15. He went away to college as a 15-year-old, if you can believe that. He had an August birthday and ended up in a fraternity at 16 as a freshman at the University of Missouri. I think that I don't know. I just think that that's sort of amazing to do that in the 50s. He claims that his fraternity was one of the inspirations for Animal House, but I think everybody says that in the Jewish fraternity. But the pranks that they played and things that they did and ways that they got hazed people. I can't imagine going through that as a 16-year-old and popping out in Animal House. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. Where did you say where he went?
University of Missouri.
Okay, yes. Mizzou. And your dad's name?
Ed.
This is my favorite part of Yizkor, because we get to not just remember inside, but remember out loud, and then we get about each other, and by telling stories, we animate the lives of our loved ones. We don't want to stop if somebody else has a sense that they really want to share about their father, before we move on to mothers. I invite you to stand if you've lost. And I turn us to the book. We have it. Whether you lost a father or a mother or both, when we stop in that paragraph, I invite you to do that. I don't know, do you usually do this in Hebrew or English or just to yourself? I don't know what the minhag hamakom is, what the custom is here in this place.
Whatever you want.
Okay,
Either way.
Okay, thank you. Let's read it in English because that's the lingua franca that we do, and you may know that when we say Kaddish Yatom, when we say Kaddish, we're saying it in Aramaic, not Hebrew. We're saying it in the language of the people when that prayer was written, and I believe very strongly that that our prayer language, the Hebrew is beautiful, and I love it, and it means so much to me to hear the sound of it, as well as now to understand I speak it. And I think it's so important for us to be able to access our prayer. So let's do this in English. And for your mother or your father, may God remember the soul of my mother, Orly Merkshinder, who has gone to her eternal home. In loving testimony to her life, I pledge charity to help perpetuate ideals important to her. Through such deeds and through prayer and memory is her soul bound up in the bond of life. May I prove myself worthy of the gift of life and the many other gifts which she blessed me. May these moments of meditation link me more strongly with her memory and with our entire family. May she rest eternally in dignity and peace. Amen. Be seated. Is there anyone who would like to lift up the memory of their mother? I'll start. My mother was a teacher. My mother's name was Orlene, Orlene. She'd always have to spell it because she'd usually say like New Orleans, but not spelled the same way. And she was named for her grandfather, Oscar Koenig. Oscar's not a great girl's name. I don't know where they came up with Orlean because it's not such a great girl's name either. But it grew on her. And she was, as my grandma would say, she was a starter. She was like, she could keep going and moving. When I was a teenager, we worked out together at a place called Elaine Powers. It was like a chain. And it was the 80s. And my mom would just be working out, and they had all the like aerobic kind of stuff with the 80s dance music, and my mom would be like doing all of this stuff, and I'd be next to her, and she'd look over at me, and my face was bright red. I don't sweat, I just get really, really red. My face was bright red, and I was huffing and puffing. I was exhausted, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And that's kind of the story of like she didn't say what's wrong with you all the time, but she had boundless energy, and my energy is less. And I'm to be okay with that. I thought that I was missing something because I wasn't as physically energetic as my mother. She taught school, and her kids, I always say, when I went to college, she replaced me with a classroom full of kids because I was that special. And she went back to the classroom. She started in DC when she first graduated from college, but she mostly taught in New York, but mostly in Ohio. And when she was diagnosed with brain cancer, she was 75, and she had never been sick a day in her life. And that was very, very hard for her. She was very angry. And even though the prognosis was really bad, she insisted she was going to keep on living. I think I've said to a few of you, I'm Jewish. My mom was walkish. She had a Fitbit, and walking was her religion. And she made sure that she put between 15 and 20,000 steps on her Fitbit every day. And she walked another 4 years out of her life. And as she knew she was dying, her students put together a party for her. And all of her, former students who were all over the United States flew back into town to be with Mrs. Schimberg. And I think that meant more to her than just about anything else. She loved teaching, and she loved being with new, fresh minds. So that's my mom, Orlean Marks Schimberg. Anybody else's mom? Yay.
Of course, I have something to say about my mother as well. There was no Jewish community there at the time, and I went to Butte for the high holidays, where the people of Butte introduced me to other women from Bozeman that came over there for the high holidays. And we became fast friends, and eventually we did start a Jewish community in Bozeman, which is still there now, especially. And my mother, who volunteered with Brandeis Books for well over 30 years, she sent us the first prayer books that we used for Beth Shalom. She donated a lot of the art, and she was very supportive of the community, Jewish community in Montana, though she never wanted her daughter to end up there.
She never wanted her daughter to what?
End up in Montana.
Oh!
I'm the black sheep of the family. But she nonetheless helped.
That's wonderful.
I don't think there'd be a Beth Shalom down there right now, but for my mother, actually. So.
And her name?
Alice Forty.
Go ahead.
This is actually a story about my mother-in-law, which to me has been mom my whole life too. She was a woman who struggled for many years with sickness. And when she died, you talked about keeping the window open. She passed away 13 years ago. And anytime we would visit her in the ACLA, the first thing he'd say is, Harold, do me a favor, let's go for pizza. That was her key. After she passed, for every year since, not only in our house, but our children's household and our grandchildren's house, on her birthday, just go out for pizza.
Every day to celebrate her life.
So the window has always been open to her life.
What kind of pizza?
She liked pepperoni.
All right. So we have nephews and they're all over the country. And October 11th, everybody goes to pizza. October 11th, so October 6th.
Yes.
And her name? Elsie. Elsie. Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else want to lift up a mom? Oh, good. Thank you.
My mother, Sharon Lopez-Arche, died of breast cancer in 1987. She was 32 years old. And she had an excellent memory. My grandfather would bring her as his plus one, especially at shul, and he would lean over and say, "Who's that?" And she remembered everyone's name for him. And this is a skill which I seem to have also. And I now notice that my daughter, Sonali, who is 6, has the same. She has the same little magic. We leave anywhere, and she can tell us who everybody's name is. So it's a special trait that seems to be passed down from eldest daughter to eldest daughter.
God, I wish I had that.
You can borrow Sonali anytime.
I need it.
Wow.
I need it.
Tell me again her name?
Sharon.
Sharon. Wow. An early loss of a mom. So sorry. Any other moms before we move on to spouses? I invite you to stand if you have lost a spouse to death. Sorry, I didn't mean to make No spouse loss. Oh, sorry.
No, that's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
Actually, today we would have been married 29 years. So, yeah. So kind of special.
Very much so.
Yeah, he was an amazing man. He was born in the Bronx, in New York, and he spent his entire life fighting for people that they could live and safer homes, safer environments, not be exposed to chemicals and other toxic materials. And so he championed the rights of people.
Wow.
He was an amazing man.
What was his name?
His name is Donald.
Donald. Thank you. Thank you for sharing him with us. Did he live here with you?
No. We lived in New York together. We got to be married a little over 3 years. He was killed. It wasn't expected. He was killed in a car accident. So, but I'm so thankful this year. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to be with somebody you love.
Absolutely. A great gift, and
It is a great gift.
I really appreciate you sharing him with us. And on this anniversary of your marriage, may you feel surrounded by that love. May you feel the love in the sunshine on your face. And when you sing, I know you love to sing. May you really connect with him through the things that you shared and the ways in which the molecules of this world are part of the great oneness that the window is open all the time.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi.
May his memory be a blessing. I invite you to rise if, oh, this was, I said spouse, right? I didn't just say husband. Okay, great. So, has anyone lost a child? And for those who have lost a relative or a friend to death, I invite you to stand to honor them. Nimnot yameinu, Nimnot yameinu, Ken hoda v'navi levav chochma, Ken hoda v'navi levav chochma. Teach us to treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our eyes to your wisdom. Oh, teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Oh, teach us to treasure each day. Nimnot yameinu, Nimnot yameinu, Nimnot yameinu, Kein hoda v'navi levav chochma. Nimnot yameinu, Kein hoda v'navi levav chochma. Stay standing if you wish, or you can sit with your body raised, and you would share some stories of these friends and relatives beyond the ones that we have specifically risen for. It would be lovely to know those people.
I'd like to talk about my brother-in-law, Nigel Schneider, who died June 11, 2013. So I'm kind of doing this on behalf of my husband, who cannot be here. He's with our kids. And my in-laws, who live in Whitefish, but they don't always come to services. Nigel, unfortunately, died of a suicide drug overdose. And we don't talk about that in our family. And Nigel was this young man with a very strong soul in the world. And I think sometimes the world was too intense for him. But he also met it with great intensity. And he was a brilliant musician. A lot of you in our community know Cole and his family are like these uber athletic mountaineers. And Nigel was kind of into that, but music was his passion. And he could play piano, guitar, drums, and he just, any type of music in the world he loved. And he also loved the community of musicians. He'd go to a lot of music fests all across the country. But he just could be friends with any musician. But he also was someone that really embraced the wayward souls of the world. And I didn't get to know him very long, And it's hard when people don't want to talk about someone that has died young or under really traumatic circumstances. But I still I always remember him because he was someone in the world that can embrace the gray, the shadow. And it's really poignant on Yom Kippur that he could hold that space.
Maggie, thank you so much for sharing that, both because you brought Nigel to life for us and all of the beauty that he added to the world, but also because you spoke about something that we don't speak about enough. And particularly in the pandemic, suicide is on the rise. I think it's really important that we acknowledge these things, that we talk about suicide and and drugs and the ways that we turn to addiction. So I want to go back to what you brought forward, this person who had so much light and love and music in him, and clearly a lot of compassion for other people. Thank you.
I'd like to share somewhat similar to what Maggie talked about. My cousin Chris, our Arbeitman, died on Rosh Hashanah just last week. So this one's kind of fresh for me. He's 2 years older than me. Actually, there's three cousins. Myself, Chris, and Scott. We're all 3 years apart. We lived very close to each other. We all went to high school together. We spent a lot of time together as kids. And Chris had a very strong love of life, and he lived probably more lifetimes than most people. So his dad died when he was pretty young, when Chris was, I think, 20, and Chris inherited a lot of money. So Chris was able to go live in California, travel the world when he wanted to. He surfed. He was also a music lover. He toured and was friends with Stone Temple Pilots, which was a big rock band in the 90s. And Chris also had a pretty serious drug problem. We were fortunate excuse me, that he was able to come back to our family, and we were able to spend the last kind of 5 years together. My kids loved him. The whole family really enjoyed being around him because he did just have this zest for life, and he was always somebody who would do things for other people just for no reason. Like, I have a nephew who's a drummer. He's a really good freaking drummer. And Chris would take him to all kinds of concerts that no one else would take Ethan to because he loves hard rock, like metal music, and no one else does. So Chris would take him because he loved it. And he was a huge part of Ethan's life. And unfortunately, we think if you meet any of my family, you can't say what I'm going to tell you because apparently it's a secret and we're not supposed to talk about it. Chris died of an accidental drug overdose, which is, it just sucks. He, in my family, all the men kind of die early. All my uncles died before the age of 50. And Chris was able to outlive all of them and lived one hell of a crazy life. He was a really great person.
May his memory be a blessing, and may all of the vibrancy that you've shared with him, may it reside in you. And may you live long, Brian.
Mine is also fresh. My niece, Katie Ann Tannenwald, died on September 1st. She was 28 years old. And 28 years ago, when she was born, my father, who I already told you was a pediatrician, told me to come to Kansas City because Katie Ann was born with a hole in her heart, wasn't going to live. But she did. She had heart surgery at 4 months old. She lived, and then now her death was unexpected, and it was not from COVID. But she had special needs. She was developmentally disabled. So my sister was always going to have to take care of her, as she had taken care of our mother before she died 2 years ago. And special needs people, it was like many of them, very joyous, always happy, always loving, loved everybody, and she and my youngest son were very close in age, at least chronologically. She'll always seem like a child to most of us, but so it's been very hard hitting. It's hard to see my sister lose a child. It's hard to lose a niece that everybody loved because she loved everybody, and that was especially hard on my own child. And so I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. Thanks, Anna. Invite you to stand if you have lost a sibling. Not putting you on the spot. You don't have to, just because you're the only person standing, you don't need to tell a story about your sister. Like,
Well, I've already mentioned my sister Stephanie. She died of breast cancer 4 or 5 weeks after my mother in 2019. So it was a very bad year for us. Um, and especially my sister Valerie, who took care of our mother and was closest with Stephanie. But as I mentioned, Stephanie, everybody also loves Stephanie. She was just one of the happiest, not special needs, very happy and generous and warm person. And she actually was probably the glue that kept our family together. We're cousins near and far. We actually had a Zoom call on her birthday in 2020, and our relatives from all over the world participated. So it was a real tribute to my sister Stephanie as well. And at least with my mother, we could say she was barely shy of her 92nd birthday and had lived on her own the whole time. You can't say that when your sibling dies of breast cancer. So it's also been hard.
may you have the strength to carry your loss. You seem to have a lot of joy within you. So sometimes that helps us to carry, and sometimes it masks stuff that really hurts. May it be the former for you, and may all of their names be uplifted.
I didn't realize it for most of my life, but I do think I got my dad's happy gene. So yeah,
Good,
I usually
good, excellent. There are a lot of happy genes going around. Thank you.
Yes, please. And please tell me what you do with those. Do you read all of the names? No. Okay. All right. But yes, please.
We do read the names of the people in our community, but we haven't read. Natalie passed away within the last 3 years. She held the first Jewish community event in the Flathead Valley. She put an ad in the newspaper in 1988 for Pesach, and everybody came. Jews came out of the woodwork. So she, in essence, is our foundress, our founding mother. She ran an Airbnb out on Swan Lake. She traveled internationally. Her favorite places were Indonesia and Southeast Asia. She would hire a guide who would take her all over the place. She went in boats. She went up mountains. She was very adventurous. Her Purim costumes were second to none. And when she traveled internationally, she brought stuffed animals or toothbrushes. She would come with like a huge suitcase of stuff and go visit orphanages and deliver, I think, stuffed animals, deliver stuffies to kids. So she was very sassy. She was very entertaining. She packed a lot of punch for her petite frames. She wore crazy makeup. And she was a lovely woman. And it was her, her brave outreach that leads us all to be here together today. So thank you, Natalie. Her memory is a blessing.
Indeed. So for Natalie Rutstein Berggraf, Richard Dennis Cohen, Rachel Cooper Klempel, and John William, who you called Jack Quatman, yes, Jr. So for all of these and all of the people that we imagine them as they were with us on this earth, and know that there's a thin veil between where we are now and whatever comes beyond this. This by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. On page 14, we have Psalm 23. Adonai ro'i lo echsar. God is my shepherd, together I shall not want. God gives me repose in green meadows. God leads me beside the still waters to revive my spirit. God guides me on the right path, for that is God's nature. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. The Beit Adonai lo orech yamim. We turn to Mourner's Kaddish, and we rise for all of these people, for some that we didn't share about, for all of those who have no one to say Kaddish Yatom for them. We say together, Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shmei Rabbah, Ve'ama divra chiruteh v'yamich chalchuteh, V'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dachal Beit Yisrael, Va'adala v'zman kari v'imru, Amen. Yehe Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam U'amei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal Shmei D'Kedusha B'richu Le'ela u'le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran v'yama v'yimru, Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimru, Amen. May the source of life, the source that sustains us all, send blessings and care to those of you to all of us, for the losses that we have suffered through death, and for the people that continue to animate our lives through their breath and their stories. May you have a meaningful rest of your afternoon until we gather again. May you be kind and gentle and loving to yourselves that you meet. Shana Tova. No.
Good to see you. Enjoy.
Thank you for the comment. We'll see you on Sunday. I'm
Okay.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yeah. 41.
I think
I still appreciate your personality. It's just been so nice to get with you. Oh, right, you're the one that.
No, it is.
Okay, will you, I went to look for my card, and I couldn't find my card, but I would love to.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd love to say it.
We've already got
Hi, Eric. This is Mike Jacob.
Hey, I know somebody, lawyer, want to go sit down and sit
It's beautiful. On Woodland Avenue.
Oh, yeah. What are you talking about? Oh,
I live
God.
before that. Now,
Oh, I know.
Right off the 6th.
You guys are still retired?
So you're just doing like 6 months a year?
Well, I have to say,
Lots of acres. I made my own tuna, I made my own eggs.
Killing those fights about 12 years ago. We were
oh, no, I look down,
And black and white cookies. That sounds
I love my brother. I know. I'm supposed to like start to talk about this.
Oh, no, that's like a
It's really nice to go. I'm vaccinated, actually.
They live right behind Poland. They live at 50.
Right, they live across the alley. Right, so now her mom and her grandmother.
So then, and there was another street, there was a synagogue that this part So there's this originally one.
And then you're.
It was great.
It's kind of weird. That was too.
Exactly. We're right ahead. We've been
That's pretty on and on. That's all.
We bought the house and.
And that's no longer.
No.
I'm not the only one.
So
no longer hike or do any of that kind of stuff.
I know, I
We
can
don't
see
go to
that when you're,
but we have
well,
one
he
of
has
those.
like.
So where's she now?
You're on the same route. But we're not serious.
He's older. He's walking. We don't walk. So he is walking.
Yeah, that's probably just cooking. Yeah. So how? Actually about, I mean, I don't know that.
It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
We're heading back on Sunday.
I went to law school.
Say hi. Are you guys running
Maybe
for us? Yeah, Judy.
Hillary, Hillary, how many families are quote unquote members?
I don't know.
You don't know either,
I
huh?
think it's 100.
Oh, 100 families? Okay.
I think it's around 100.
Yeah.
Or more than 50.
Are you going to? So, Jerry, bye-bye. You guys have a safe trip, and I'll see you maybe.
So, you do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I always get it.
Do you have Jerry call me? Did you call me? I will. I'll tell her hello and goodbye. Okay, bye-bye.
So when I reached out to
You guys.
Maggie, take care of those babies.
I will. Thank you. What are you putting back? Oh, wow. You got that?
he did with the days where everything.
Hey, he'll be back there
I'm really trying to. I was trying to like make myself really available.
We're not sure. We're thinking about it, but we haven't decided.
I should be helping. I'll be there in a minute.
Winnie. Yeah, Wednesday. So he's a year.
Winston, that's right. People next door to us.
Well, I was just going to tell you
And they
I
lost
was
the second one last day.
Hey,
And they
Sally?
had
Allie?
Watson.
Interesting. I am. My sister has a good apartment, but she's
Yeah.
Oh, but you can't do it?
Yeah, you guys were on the path. That's what he said. So now Winston's like up to my hip. He's huge.
Yeah.
But he's a good, he's a really good dog. So, yeah. I will take care of those kiddos and make sure. I will really.
140?
Yeah,
Good.
sweetie, take care. We'll see you next
You
summer.
walk to my car?
I'm sorry, I didn't get to have burgers with you guys.
No, hang on.
You try carefully.
Sally, what is this?
Yes, I'm very.
What's the code?
Call me Mister.
Right, Maggie, what is the code? I thought Friday or Saturday. Today is Thursday.
Oh, good. In Michigan.
Yeah, let me get another chair and we can separate them.
Friday night, okay.
Ah, very good.
Where's the code?
Well, I'm glad you guys were able to join us here. How much longer are you guys staying in town? Will you stay and ski a little? Okay.
Yeah.
All last week.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't take much.
Nope, there's gonna be one here.
Okay. Yeah. I'm excited.
That's
Well,
really
this is
cool.
what I look like in case we run into each other around town in the future. Sometimes, there we go. Good. Sometimes the basket's hard to, just like ski golf, but we would recognize each other next time. So. Yeah, see you.
Really nice.
Yeah, but I don't know what.
Okay, or where?
We'll find out on Friday.
Are we doing it at my house?
No, we're doing it here.
Okay, good.
It's what.
Oh yeah, because I'm just too proud here.
I did volunteer your house, however.
You can volunteer my house anytime. Steven, I'm Hillary.
Hi.
It's nice to meet you.
Hey, I'm very impressed that wow, I
My
was
God, mitzvah just came welling up, right?
no, that was very impressive. That must be at least 10 years ago, right?
Well, I'm 40. Cool. So 1994.
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to do the math. So
27 years.
27. That's pretty good.
How's that? It's not. I have done it since then, so it's not. I've had other times to pass it.
You have a small.
Thanks for presidenting your other synagogue. It must be nice to just be here and not have to worry about anything.
I'm still worried about it. That's why I came in late, because I was listening to the live stream because I feel like I have to.
Yes. I remember the people who were presidenting, leading this congregation when I moved here in 2005, not long after they moved to Arizona. And they said that
One of our
joy of just going to
I don't know,
school
and
and not having to think about any of the pieces was such a pleasure.
So is this where you always have your services?
No, I don't think we ever had an always. But yeah, it's again,
Sometimes it's easy to find places, sometimes it's not. When I moved here in 2005, we still met here. This is the Glacier Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, and they welcome anyone to use their space.
if you're walking towards
And I hope we stick with it. Yeah, outdoors, indoors, either way, it's just a great option in between Whitefish and Kalispell. Beautiful drive wherever you come from. So hopefully we'll see you guys here again. Seeing you again and here again. So.
Thank you.
Take care, you guys.
I'm Stephen Brody. Jake Quinn? Japin.
In the moment,
Yeah, she woke up in the middle. We didn't give her any motion until the middle of the night when she woke up screaming. But her fever's down, and then
can I speak this to her?
sure, yeah, and Charlie's feeling better. And I talked to pediatricians, and
I think I've got all these books.
oh, I have one.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Yeah, so they're good. Yeah. The pediatricians like
Sure there is.
He's like, but unfortunately,
Wow, look how strong she is. Wow.
well,
I'll try to see me. And if not, we'll I'm not, I don't think that's yeah. It is true.
no, that sounded weird.
What'd you say? That's true. No, it's weird we're just having a conversation where we're like
Talking about being friends and then saying goodbye, and then I'm being weird, so I'm like, oh, you better stay in touch. And mostly I wanted to say,
oh yeah, seriously.
and one of my friends was like texting at 7 about meeting for drinks.
Yeah, right.
She's like, oh shoot, I totally forgot.
I got out of all the work. I'm feeling pretty special. I got on. Folks are talking to me, so I got. Huh?
Bye.
Okay. Thank you.
I love your voice. Yeah, should I get this chair here?
Super nice.
Yeah. Probably get this.
I'm gonna go home with all kinds of happy, good feelings about myself.
Good. Good to have good feelings.
Yes. Well, turned out it's been fun because I moved to a new community. I served a congregation in Columbus, Ohio. Then I moved to Nashville to be with my beloved and marry him.
I think the rabbi should take, well, we should have the same seat.
Is she coming home soon? Tomorrow. Okay. Yep, that sounds perfect. What you think? And then the rabbi's taking the tour. Right? So this has
I have not talked to Grandma. She wants to tour herself.
Should I bring these?
No, they're going into a bin. Do you
Oh.
bring flowers home to Francine and Mark's house?
I brought the bin in without putting all the books in it.
Oops, no,
Sorry, Tom. Should I go through it? Okay. Oh, here. Okay. Actually, you know what you could do? I'm gonna do oh, so they can get in. Okay.
you taking her home? Good, good.
Yep.
Where you going, Deborah? Okay. Right.
That was lovely.
I put the bin inside the door.
That song?
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Wow. Thank you, friend.
No.
Either people are being really nice or that is the consensus.
This is what we do. Sign,
No.
the teal piece of paper. And then we go back. There's like 37 pieces of that. From the teal piece of paper, we go back.
That is a great mic.
It went.
Like here, right?
Yep.
I was told it was the user that was the.
I've done this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did, which is really interesting because
Did you like go to classes for singing and stuff like that?
I have always loved to sing. I sang in choirs, but I've never. I mean, I did a little solo stuff in college, but I went actually to what can I bring? Can I bring something while I walk?
Well, you can bring these.
Okay. Oh, good. Yeah, I didn't have the Holy Foot stuff to go to rabbinical school. So
Yeah.
when I first was having this sense that this is what I needed to do, I talked to the director of the cantorial program, and he's like, "Yeah, you got a nice voice, kid." And his wife is. So he's the Hazan, and Rabbi Marsha Prager is the dean.
And this one I don't know what to do with.
From here, the teal, go back.
Okay, 3, got it.
Yep.
Oh, it's still need radio, we got it.
Bam.
Okay, I got it.
Thanks, Al.
Where do you want them?
The bin is right inside the door.
Okay.
Hold on, people already went in.
Okay.
So I had a dream about Sonali last night.
Oh yeah, Tom mentioned it, but he said I.
But there was like no substances. What I remember was just like how adorable she was. That's all it was. It was actually really funny. Like, why am I having a dream about Sonali?
She is thriving at school.
That's good.
Yeah.
She is a cutie.
Oh, Deborah, how to get those?
Yeah.
You got them? Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay. So you guys want these for tonight? Send these back to Jessica.
No, those are French.
And all these, so we'll just send all these back.
Really, she's going like
Hillary gave me one job and I'm not doing it.
Uh-uh.
Oh, that's okay.
You haven't seen mine as leaving stuff out, right?
Yeah, but
Well, they're gonna take the
you
trip.
could have tried to water on here. Take some down.
On the 10th.
Well, I don't know. I left him a message. Yeah, but he said he wasn't feeling good.
Oh.
You don't want them coming out here then?
Is this the Mike guy or the tent guy?
Tent's coming down tomorrow morning, or tomorrow.
So is that the guy who was doing?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are
Eric,
talking
yeah,
about
okay.
Eric.
Wow.
He's Sally?
Yeah.
Oh, he's not
The
feeling well?
tub with all our
The one
prayer
with the
books
sun?
are in there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Should we
Well,
take
you
them
never know
home?
what it is.
No,
I mean,
no,
we're just all freaked out about COVID
I
too
know,
much.
we are.
You could have a cold or something.
I just tapped it out so that we would put the last few in
But we get to keep them here.
for a week,
Until tomorrow,
tomorrow,
or
a
Saturday.
couple days.
So we need to move the ark. That's it.
I was just
Yeah, well,
gonna
the car is
say,
I gotta
if
get
you wanna
that.
put them
Yeah,
in
If
my
we,
truck,
No, no,
I
we're
need
fine.
to
I can
pick
get
the,
them to where they need to be.
that
No,
tour
there's a
I
plan in
will,
place already.
Okay.
So,
Next
Right.
up,
You're welcome.
you wanna take, that's how you wanna take flowers to
yeah, I'm sure they would love it. They'll be home tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll go put them
with all of
in
you here, I have a quick
garden.
question.
Yeah.
How early do I need to get to the airport for a flight?
we
Do we
haven't
need to
traveled in
take
so
a
long,
part
we
of
don't
the
know.
Oh, yeah.
I always say 2 hours before.
2 hours?
2 hours here?
Here?
Well, you probably
Maybe
not,
so.
but I mean,
I think
I
one.
still say 2 hours.
My flight's at 6:45 a.m.
Yeah, well,
We
then,
can't get in there till 5 o'clock anyway.
yeah.
I was planning to be there at 6.
But yeah.
Maybe not. I should
No,
be there
no,
early.
you should be there earlier. Because they close at 5.
Yeah, Alaska's in the middle.
And when I came in, there was just like, wait, I yeah, I know. Is somebody gonna see Erin? Yeah, this is hers, and I'm gonna leave this one for my mom.
Should we get the tour at your car?
Yeah. The car's open.
I don't care. Is there any special thing you have to do? Just green light, sack
Okay,
potatoes?
we're good.
Good.
We're on the same page. So, do we need to take apart electronics or?
I'll go open the door for you.
Thanks. That's what I call. I'll call. Try.
And he left them out all week.
Well,
The computer's there.
Oh,
We
cool.
need the computer for the.
Why don't we just leave it up for Neela?
Oh, we're gonna be back here in a few hours.
Yeah, we'll be back here in a couple hours, so we'll leave it up. Did
we come back at 6.
Did we take the camera away? But we won't be in the.
I'll try calling him again.
Did you have my stomach?
No.
It was growling the
No,
whole
everything's
service.
good, Deborah.
Everything's
good.
I was like so embarrassed.
No, everything's good. Don't
My
worry.
stomach was like, what happened to that thing?
Eric.
Yeah, I have
Mike.
problems with it too.
Oh,
I'm
here's
sucking
the
on
here's
the
community
talk from so I can
gathering.
talk, you know.
Yeah.
Anything
That's the thing.
that I need to do?
Cups, I'll bring them to you tonight.
No.
They're Ricola.
Yeah, these are Ricola sugar free.
Yeah, they're sugar free.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah,
the
but-
Do
decent.
you know who I gave some to?
Who's this?
Alan.
Oh, really? Yeah. He's doing okay. I mean, I've got every.
He had the biggest smile on his face. You know why? Because do you remember the hurdle case? We had a reasonableness hearing. It was a very big case, a 40-year-old that had meso that I literally devoted 3 years of my life to, literally.
Mm-hmm.